horror films, or films in general, end on a perfect note where the story wraps up neatly and there's nothing left to be said. Others have a cliffhanger ending, hoping they get another chance at bat. But what they've given us so far was utter crap, so it never happens. Then there's, of course, the films that get sequels that really don't need one. It's just about the paycheck. But what about those rare films that set up something interesting and leave room for expansion that so far have been left to collect dust? Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 horror films that deserve sequels. Number 1, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is often referred to as a remake of the 1956 sci-fi classic, although it technically is not. It's actually the second adaptation of Jack Finney's 1955 novel, The Body Snatchers. Regardless, 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers is widely regarded as the superior film. It follows Health Inspector Miles Bennell, played by Donald Sutherland, as he slowly uncovers that his friends and co-workers are not quite themselves. A practically unseen alien race has been co-opting the planet by making replicas of people and replacing the original. In Invasion of the Body Snatchers, spores from extraterrestrial flowers are infecting people and duplicating them from pods. Hence why we use the once popular term, pod people, to describe someone that's not themselves. Both the original film and the 78 version reflect Cold War era fears and paranoia. But the 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers explores that beyond surface level. Director Philip Kaufman worked closely with his cinematographer, Michael Chapman, to create jarring shots as well as a noir-inspired aesthetic. Award-winning sound designer who worked on Star Wars, Ben Burt, made fantastic use of sound design as the ambient sounds grew increasingly less natural and more mechanical. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a fantastic and well-executed film with an unexpectedly stellar cast, especially for sci-fi nerds. Alongside Sutherland, you have the legendary Jeff Goldblum. You know, from The Fly, Jurassic Park, Independence Day, and Thor Ragnarok. Then you have the late Leonard Nimoy, who absolutely embodied his classic Star Trek character, Spock. And Amanda Cartwright, who we know best as Lambert in Alien. Even Kevin McCarthy, who played Miles in the 1956 version, makes a cameo appearance. The end is a tragic one, as the last scene reveals that Miles is a pod person. In our modern age of post-apocalypse sci-fi drama, a sequel series that explores a pod people-infested world 50 years later could be intriguing. As Amazon now owns United Artists, who have the rights to the 78 version, they could potentially rally up some of the team from their Emmy-winning hit Fallout and create something good. Another route the filmmakers could take is to pull from and expand on any used threads, lore, etc. from Jack Finney's novel if possible. But don't miss out on Invasion of the Body Snatchers, streaming on Tubi, Pluto, Sling, Philo, MGM+, Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 2, The Crazies. 2010's The Crazies is a remake of George A. Romero's 1973 film by the same name. The aughts was full of subpar horror remakes, but Breck Eisner's The Crazies was not one of them. The critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes reads that the 2010 film is tense, nicely shot, and uncommonly intelligent, The Crazies is a horror remake that unusually works. Many even regard the remake as a superior film. The Crazies is set in the fictional Iowa town of Ogden Marsh, in which a toxin infects its inhabitants. And this, of course, makes them go crazy. They become violent, homicidal, and psychotic. There's definitely shades of 28 Days Later happening. The cast is led by Timothy Olyphant, known for his breakout role in Scream 2 and leading FX's Emmy-winning hit Justified. The ending involves the town being quarantined and destroyed with a few survivors. Now, there's a few routes a sequel could take, depending on the scope the filmmakers are looking at or the budget the studio is willing to fork over. With 28 years later just being released, and The Crazies becoming more topical than ever with all the mindless violence, the studio could be looking at a bona fide hit. With all the pollution and deregulation, maybe in a sequel, the toxin is released in cities, and it becomes like The Purge meets 28 Days Later. Regardless, you can check out 2010's The Crazies on Pluto, Stars, Sling, Philo, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 3, The Cabin in the Woods. 2012's The Cabin in the Woods takes head on all sorts of horror tropes in a smart and highly entertaining story that is self-reflexive and gloriously meta. Although plagued with controversy, we can appreciate Joss Whedon's wit and whimsy that is stamped all over the writing for Cabin in the Woods. Drew Goddard helmed the film with finesse. Even when you think you've got a handle on what's going on in this cinematic thrill ride, Goddard pulls the rug from under you. The film sees a group of college kids take a trip to, wait for it, a cabin in the woods. Even though this is the most quintessential of horror setups, all the characters seem logical and intelligent at least at first. The audience is shown that the whole cabin setting is an elaborate setup, and those behind it are manipulating the environment, the characters, and sending monsters in to kill them as a sacrifice to the ancient gods. They are also taking bets on who dies by what. What we learn by the end is that the sacrifice is necessary, as they don't meet their quota, and that triggers the apocalypse. Now, there are 2 directions the filmmakers could go with a sequel: a full-out apocalypse film, or prequels that are homage to various slasher and monster movies. Either way, it's a universe that deserves to be explored. So witness the mayhem over on Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. Number 4, Deep Rising. A year before Stephen Sommers delivered the definitive modern incarnation of The Mummy, he gave us the gleeful B-monster film, Deep Rising. The film even stars Rick O'Connell's little buddy Benny from The Mummy, a sycophantic weasel portrayed by Kevin J. O'Connor. In Deep Rising, O'Connor plays a ship crew member, Joey Pantucci. He stars alongside Femke Jensen before her tenure as X-Men's Jean Grey, and the late Treat Williams, whose long prolific career began in 1972 on Broadway, portraying Danny Zuko in Grease. Deep Rising came at a time when studios were drunk on using CGI effects, but didn't always know how to make it look good, whether that was because of time or budget constraints. Deep Rising, luckily enough, came with a somewhat healthy $45 million budget. The film sees ship crew Captain John Finnegan, played by Williams, Joey and Leia hired by mercenaries to pilot their boat across the South China Sea to an undisclosed location. At the same time, a luxury cruise ship, the Argonautica, on its maiden voyage is sabotaged, as well as attacked by some monstrosity. While Captain Finnegan and his ship full of mercenaries cross paths with the Argonautica, they take over to loot the place. This is when Deep Rising gets really fun. The monster in it is some kind of octopus-like creature with carnivorous tentacles. By the end of the film, the survivors make it to an island, but there is also some kind of monster or monsters residing there. A sequel could most certainly go a Skull Island or Isla Sorna route, where a group or groups end up on this island and have to survive giant monsters or dinosaurs. Or, in the spirit of the original, they could do another motley crew stranded on a ship or boat, but with a different kind of monster. Or both. I would like to know what was on that island, and if there are any survivors. What do y'all think? You can watch Deep Rising on Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 5. Event Horizon. Paul W.S. Anderson's cult sci-fi film Event Horizon was released in 1997 as a critical and commercial failure. The first time I watched it, I didn't understand the appeal. Upon rewatch, I'll say it started off strong and turned into a mess. Not to say it isn't entertaining, and for the gorehounds, there are some pretty grisly deaths. Anderson's known for style over substance, and screenwriter Philip Eisner, although he teaches screenwriting at USLA, has done more in the way of comics than films. Event Horizon is set in 2047 and follows a rescue crew who receives a distress signal from the ship Event Horizon on its maiden voyage. It's strange because the ship had disappeared 7 years prior, and something nefarious follows it. The ship seems to have entities that possess people. The cast for Event Horizon is admittedly pretty solid. I originally watched it for Sam Neill, who Jurassic Park fans know well as Dr. Alan Grant. Lawrence Fishburne is a bonus, because we all love Morpheus. They play Cooper and Dr. William Ware. According to Oxford dictionaries, an event horizon is a theoretical boundary around a black hole beyond which no light or other radiation can escape, or a point of no return. The real question is, why name a ship that? Or even a sci-fi film in which it's not a double meaning? Regardless, the premise is interesting. Word on the street is Paul W.S. Anderson had a 2+ hour cut that was hacked up by Paramount. Most of the footage was lost or destroyed, and I certain believe all that. I'd like a properly budgeted sequel with Paul W.S. Anderson overseeing it. Perhaps he could incorporate the scrapped elements. Screenwriting and director could go to someone better, though. There's a whole swath of interdimensional creatures that could terrorize astronauts. But you can watch the studio's cut of Event Horizon on Tubi, Pluto, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 6. Oculus. Although 2013's Oculus was my introduction to the brilliant horror film director Mike Flanagan, as it was many people's, it was his second feature film. His first was actually a crowd-funded independent film from 2011 called Absentia. Oculus is based on a short film from Flanagan called Oculus, Chapter 3, The Man with a Plan. The feature film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September of 2013, and its U.S. theatrical release, distributed by Relativity Media, was on April 11th, 2014, which I was there for. Oculus tells two parallel stories of siblings, Kaylee and Tim Russell, and their move into a new house as children that contains a mysterious antique mirror. The past tale tells the story of the children's parents, Alan and Marie Russell, who are both haunted or seduced by the mirror. Oculus is a beautiful and tragic psychological journey. The mirror is quite literally reflecting fears. Thanks to Flanagan's poignant script and taut direction, the film rides the premise to glory. In the flashback story, both Alan and Marie meet their demise by the mirror. The present-day story sees Kaylee that she has devoted her life to learning about the antique mirror while her brother has been in a psychiatric hospital. In Oculus, the siblings didn't fully remember what happened, and the narrative structure oscillating between past and present gives some sense of their point of view. Actress Karen Gilligan, who is most notable for playing fan favorite Amy Pond in Doctor Who, is a force to be reckoned with as she plays the adult Kaylee. Her mother is played by sci-fi darling Katie Sackhoff of Battlestar Galactica fame. Oculus was a commercial success, on top of garnering widespread critical praise. Mike Flanagan has expressed telling more Oculus tales and having Gilligan involved. The issue with getting a film off the ground is that Relativity Media went bankrupt in 2018. Blumhouse was a production company for Oculus as well as, believe it or not, WWE. It's been over a decade since the original, but maybe it's a good thing they haven't been able to churn out sequels. As much as I'd like to see one, I'd most likely pass on one that lacks Flanagan's involvement. Otherwise, you can check out Oculus on Plex, Prime, Redbox, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 7, Brightburn. Before Anthony Starr gave us the terrifying portrayal of the Superman homage Homelander in Amazon's Emmy-winning hit series, The Boys, James Gunn produced his very own version of What If Superman Was Evil? That's what viewers got with 2019's Brightburn. Unlike The Boys, the film isn't a superhero or action story taking place in a world of super beings. Brightburn is labeled as a horror superhero film. It follows a young boy, Brandon Brayer, who discovers he has superpowers, and unlike Superman, he doesn't take the route of good guy. While the film is a bit uneven, it really is terrifying. In The Boys, even in the DC universe, there are beings powerful enough to stop Superman if need be. Brightburn makes you completely understand where Batman was coming from in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Brightburn was written by Brian and Mark Gunn, so the film was a Gunn family passion project. It also stars Elizabeth Banks, taking another turn at using her dramatic chops. I'll say, she's come a long way from The Uninvited, as she plays Brandon's mother who just wanted a child, and the audience certainly feels this. Brightburn ends with Brandon's family killed and his farmhouse destroyed, with Brandon on the loose. I'm not sure how they'd do a sequel, but I'd like one in which humanity comes together to stop Brandon Brayer, as opposed to introducing more super beings. However, you can experience Brightburn on Starz, Philo, Sling, Google Play, Fandango, and Prime. Number 8, Splinter. Splinter follows couple Polly Watt and Seth Blazer on their way to go camping. While they're traveling down a road in a forested area in Oklahoma, they stop to pick up a woman that they would later know as Lacey, and she looks lost and hurt. Polly and Seth are then carjacked by her and her husband Dennis. Polly is played by Jill Wagner, who rose to fame by starring on MTV's Punk'd. Seth is played by Paolo Costanzo, who I recognized immediately as the genius stoner from Todd Phillips' college road comedy in 2000, Road Trip. After being carjacked, Polly and Seth are forced to drive their carjackers wherever they want. They end up running over an animal with some kind of hard spikes, or splinters, in it. That ultimately shreds their tires and fuel line. So they head over to a secluded gas station where Lacey is attacked and killed by the splinter-infected gas station attendant. Her body, too, becomes infected by the splinters, and it reanimates her corpse. The creature in Splinter is some kind of parasitic organism that itself spreads like a virus. Director Toby Wilkins was inspired by films like The Thing and 28 Days Later when coming up with the creature. Splinter is labeled as a sci-fi suspense thriller, and it is quite effective, thanks to a smart script and adept direction from Wilkins. All the more impressive is Splinter was Wilkins' debut feature. Although Polly and Seth believed to have destroyed the organism in a fiery explosion, the last shot reveals a dead animal with said parasitic splinters in it. Splinter gives an easy open for a sequel. My hope is Wilkins will have some kind of involvement, introduce a new cast in a new setting, and maybe build on his lore. It would be pretty easy to make a cash grab sequel too. I'm not sure I'd want it to reach the scope of The Last of Us or 28 Days Later. However, another semi-tongue-in-cheek sequel in a camp or lake setting would suffice. And if it really goes hard on some Cronenberg-type carnage, that would honestly be perfect for me. But you can watch the original on Prime, Philo, Tubi, Pluto, Zumo, Plex, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 9. Freddy vs. Jason. Fans of both 80s horror icons Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees were dying to see a showdown between these two mass-murdering madmen. Since 1994's Jason Goes to Hell, horror fans got the ultimate tease. You think waiting for the Avengers to throw down with Thanos was bad? This was worse. Lucky for me, I didn't have to wait 9 years for Freddy vs. Jason. I did have to wait several months after I saw the trailer though, because no one wants to take a 14-year-old to see an R-rated movie. But that's in the past. I snagged Freddy vs. Jason up on DVD on Tuesday the 13th. That's not a punchline. New video releases are on Tuesdays, and they happen to land on a 13th. I had a blast with the film. It's still a guilty pleasure for me. It's not the greatest Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's up there and a hell of a lot of fun. Anyway, the final scene in Jason Goes to Hell may very well be the most important in cinema history. Maybe. Jason was now in hell and his iconic hockey mask laid in the depths of it. And then Freddy Krueger's bladed hand reaches to grab it, teeing off Freddy vs. Jason. 2003's iconic showdown, Freddy vs. Jason, sees Jason Voorhees pulled from hell by Freddy Krueger to kill a new generation of kids on Elm Street. They had long forgotten Freddy's reign of terror on the town of Springwood. Those who do remember are sent into Western Hills Psychiatric Hospital to take Hypnosil. Both the setting and the drug were introduced in A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Honestly, the film makes great use of elements introduced in previous Friday and Nightmare films. Freddy is hoping Jason's killing spree will be just enough for folks to remember him, because they will think Freddy's back before they realize it's Jason. This will help Freddy gain power. I truly think this was an excellent setup. The problem comes when Jason becomes a mad dog off his leash and steals a kill that should have been Freddy's. Freddy is eventually pulled into the real world, also part of lore, by the protagonists who are well aware of the two. Their plan sees them return Jason to Crystal Lake. They figure that in the best case scenario, Jason wins and stays on his home turf. A physical showdown ensues between Freddy and Jason, and it's a blood-drenched, glorious, stylish, over-the-top beatdown at Crystal Lake. The film ends with Jason holding Freddy's severed head, and then Freddy looks at the camera and winks. It's been over 20 years, and sequels to 20-plus-year-old franchises are all the rage. The people demand another showdown. But you can catch Freddy vs. Jason on Prime, Google Play, and Fandango. Number 10, The Mist. 2007, what is one of my personal favorite Stephen King adaptations to date. Which is no easy feat, as King adaptations include many classics, particular in the horror genre. In The Mist, a strange mist engulfs a town, and there are lethal, terrifying creatures in said mist. This story takes place primarily in a grocery store. Many people have hunkered down there to stay safe. But of course, paranoia and fear consume people and they inevitably clash. The mist is topical today, especially in our current tumultuous political climate. The ensemble, led by Thomas Jane, play their parts superbly and emotionally. Marcia Gay Harden, who plays the deplorable religious zealot, might be the MVP. Jane, who plays David Drayton, eventually escapes the store along with a group of survivors because the store becomes overrun by monsters. David realizes that none of them are going to survive this monster apocalypse, and he mercy kills them, including his very own son. As David is about to commit suicide, the army arrives for rescue as they have neutralized the threat. David comes to the realization that he will now have to live the rest of his life knowing he was mere moments away from all the survivors, including his son, being saved. This is one of the most brilliant, emotional, and devastating ends to a film I have experienced. It is also different than the ambiguous ending King gave in the short story, and actually applauded director Frank Darabont's end. When it comes to a follow-up, there's quite a bit of the Stephen King universe source material to pull from. The options are limitless. Should a Mist sequel follow David deal with the fallout? Should it show the military side of the story? Or perhaps people who were stuck outside? Should it take place 20 years later where the Mist returns? Like I said, the options are limitless. But you can stream The Mist over on Prime, Freevee, Philo, Google Play, and Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. We're also now on Blue Sky. You can find us at studiosfat.bsky.social, which will also link below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again and take care.